is not good for the iPhone. Nolan's camera's able to get a shot. That's why I'm filming. If I can't get his face, I can at least get his voice.
I want to first of all say I'm glad to be at UC Irvine. I met backstage with Chancellor Drake and with the head of the college Democrats, Jose Quintana, who just spoke. He said I was supposed to do this. How am I doing? There are a number of people in the audience that I want to recognize, including Representative Susan Davis, Representative Grace Napolitano, Representative Loretta Sanchez, Congressman Van Sherman, two congressional candidates, the mayor of Irvine, Suki Khan, and Dave Shin. Thank you all for being here. I want to say a few words about each of these candidates. I am doing everything I can to try to help re-elect the president and to try, although after his performance last night in the debate, I don't think he needs as much help. I thought he did great.
Bayonets and horses!
But it's very important to realize that, particularly in California, because you are the state of the future, because you represent every hope we have for living in a world of shared prosperity and shared responsibilities. A world where we embrace our diversity, we're proud of our identity, but we think our common humanity matters more. It's really important that we get the best Congress we possibly can to make the most of the next 4 years and to turn back the reactionary tide. California. When I was president, I came here 29 times in just my first term. Because of all the economic challenges that California faced back in '92, I have been through this before. And I just want to say a few things to set the stage for the candidates here and those in the audience and what we're facing and the choices before us. Because I remember what it was like. And I saw California flat at its back, and then I saw California come roaring back to lead America into the 21st century. First of all, we live in a world, not just a state, not just a nation, a world, full of enormous possibilities represented by you and by UC Irvine and by the finest system of public higher education ever created that has been under assault now for years from the economy and from the Republican Party. Here's what I know. What I know from my years as president, from a dozen years as a governor, from a dozen years traveling around the world working with my foundation. Here's what I know. We're all in this together. It works a lot better than you're on your own. Shared prosperity and shared responsibilities and a shared sense of community works a lot better than trickle-down economics. Evidence works better than ideology, and arithmetic works better than illusion. Conflict. And people are the most important resource of the 21st century. If you look around the world, and around America, and around California, all the challenges we face can be put into three big baskets. There's too much inequality in terms of earning capacity, access to jobs, access to small business capital, access to education, and access to health care. It is bad for the people who get the short end of the stick. It is a severe constraint on the future growth of California, America, and every poor country in the world. We need less of it. There is too much instability. Look how fast the financial crisis spread around the world. Why do terrorists hit targets that claim fewer casualties than a given day in any major war? Because they know if they can scare everybody, they can shut things down. Why is there so much conflict over ethnic and racial and religious differences and over gay rights issues? Because people's identity, if it is negative, that is, in order for me to be who I am and think well of myself, I have to be against somebody else. It shuts things down. And in spite of our Republican friends denying it, there is an unsustainability about the way we produce and consume energy and the way we use local resources, because climate change is going to compromise your future unless we find a way to make it an economic opportunity for global rebirth. So if you believe this, you got to elect the right people, starting with the president and going down to the members of Congress. If you believe that cooperation works better than conflict, if you believe that shared prosperity is important, I'd vote for Prop 30 and I'd vote against 32. It depends on how you see the world. But look, America's got a lot of advantages. Its biggest advantage is youth. We're younger than Europe, we're younger than Japan, in 20 years we'll be younger than China. Having lost it, I can tell you youth is important. We know diversity is important. That's why President Obama was right to lead young immigrants who were brought here when they were young in the United States. Important. And there are choices to be made. The President has an economic plan that basically is designed to produce shared prosperity. It has already given us 5.3 million private sector jobs in the last 31 months, 32 months, twice as many as we got in the 7 years of the Bush administration that were free of recession and the crash. It works better. We have manufacturing jobs growing for the first time since the 1990s. 250,000 more people working, making automobiles. Exports up 45%. We are moving in the right direction. 4-year high in home ownership, 4-year high in automobile ownership. Shucks, even gas prices are finally coming down. You've got the refineries working again, and you watch. There'll be a 50-cent drop in gas prices by the end of the year just because of the backlogs being worked through. We're moving in the right direction, but we've got a lot more to be done. We need to find a way to deal with our debt that doesn't wreck the future. The Obama plan, which is the Democratic congressional plan, cuts spending about $2.50, counting interest savings for every dollar in new revenue. But it asks those of us in higher income groups who got the benefit of the economic growth of the last decade, when the middle class was shut out, and the benefit of the tax cuts of the last decade, when the middle class was largely shut out, to kick in a little money and pay what they did when I was president. When I would remind you, we had more millionaires and billionaires than ever before, but the bottom 40%'s income rose in percentage terms as much as the top 20% for the first time in a long time. Will it need to be improved? Yes. And I'll say more about that in a minute. But look, we've already had, the first time in 50 years, inflation under 4% in healthcare costs. And no small measure because of that law. We've had $1.3 billion in refunds repaid to American people, not counting California because the reports aren't in review, so you know it will be way higher than that. Because 80 to 85% of your health insurance policy now has to go to your health care instead of profits or promotion. You want to know why all these Republicans want to repeal Obamacare and why the Democrats don't? Because they hate that requirement that 80 to 85% of your insurance premiums have to go to your health care. You've got 3 million people under the age of 26 who are covered with health insurance for the first time in their life because you can carry children on their parents' health insurance plan. Is clear. You want to finish the job and implement it and keep working on high quality and lower inflation in healthcare, or do you want to just scrap it and go back to the old system which crippled America? Last week, for the first time I have seen this in a newspaper headline, something I have been saying for 4 years, was a headline in USA Today. One of the big reasons people did not get a pay raise for the entire last decade is that employers who wanted to give them a pay raise had to spend the money instead paying for their employees' health insurance premiums. We cannot afford that. We need to keep this law. They will do it, and the other guys won't. Every single one of them. One final thing I think is important, and on this ground alone, you should make sure every candidate on this stage and the members of Congress and the candidates that I introduced who are here deserve to be reelected by you for this reason alone. In the last decade, college costs went up twice the rate of inflation. America, which is ranked at the very top of the world from World War II to the 1990s, and the percentage of our young people both going on to college and getting degrees, still ranks near the top in the percentage of you that go to college, but it's dropped to 16 in young Americans aged 25 to 34 who actually finish. Why? Because of the cost, because of the debt, because people think I cannot borrow any more money, I cannot stay in, I will never repay the debt. Now, the most important thing that has been done in the last 4 years that nearly nobody knows about is the student loan reform law, passed by Congress, to be fully implemented next year. You just look at it. These are real people up here that are going to affect your life. This is up to the Congress. And it's up to the next president. The law says this. If you qualify for a federal student loan, under the new system, the government will send the money directly to UC Irvine to be distributed to the students who qualify. That will lower the interest rates as compared to the old system of just letting the banks make the loans at market interest rates and guaranteeing them against losses. Okay? Then even more important, you get to pay that loan back if you choose as a fixed small percentage of your income for up to 20 years, which means nobody ever has to drop out of college again because they're afraid they can't borrow more money. We can go from 16 back to the top of the heap in the percentage of our young people who actually get degrees. It also means something else. Suppose you love California, and you're a native, and you want to go out into some smaller school in the Inland Empire and teach school for 3 or 4 years where the property tax base is not graded. You may not make as much money. Suppose you get a medical degree and your debts are over $200,000, which is average in America, and you want to go to an inner city health clinic where you can't make a lot of money. Suppose you'd like to serve for a year or two as a police officer or a firefighter. You can do it now because your loan repayments will be determined by your job, so you don't have to fix your job because of your loan repayment. That this is the law, and then next year it will apply to everybody who gets a student loan. Now, I know two people know. Julie is the head of the House Education Committee in the California Assembly. And Alan is the head of the Education Committee in the State Senate. They know real people go to Congress and make real decisions that affect real people's lives. I'm telling you, if you are here and you are having a good time and you intend to support the president for re-election and you want this direction, you need to send these people to Congress because they will protect the future of American education. I want to say a few words about them individually. First of all, I thank Julie Brownlee for introducing me and for what she said about women's rights. It is true that women's rights were under attack 20 years ago when I ran for president. And now it looks like an old record is playing. Now, it looks like we've even retrograded. Even when I ran, I didn't get attacked for allowing women to have access to contraceptives. You're laughing.
No more babies.
But it's true. This is not a religious issue. This is not whether Catholic hospitals and colleges should have to offer contraceptives. This is about shutting down Planned Parenthood and what it's trying to do to save women's lives and make sure babies are born into a healthy world. If you want that, you got to send Julie Brownlee to Congress. She's got an opponent who signed Grover Norquist's No New Taxes pledge. Just like Governor Romney in his severe conservative stage, who raised his hand on the stage with all the Republicans saying he would not favor asking upper-income people to spend a dime more to help balance America's books and get rid of this debt and keep investing in the future. He signed that pledge. So if he goes to Congress, he either will have to disavow his pledge or be irresponsible with America's future. No serious person believes. Read the Simpson-Bowles Commission if you want a conservative version of debt reduction. No serious person believes across the entire political spectrum that we can possibly get hold of the debt without three things. Without adequate spending controls, adequate revenues, and adequate economic growth. So her opponent wants to take one of the legs out from under the chair before you sit down. You got to send her to Congress. She is the right candidate of this country. Now, I met Dr. Robert Weeds about a year ago when he started his long campaign. When a lot of people thought what a long shot he was, and now most polls say he is ahead. I like him for a lot of reasons. I like him because, like me, he went to Haiti to work after the earthquake and got an award from the 82nd Airborne Division for doing it.
What?
And unlike me, he actually had usable skills that helped to save people's lives after the earthquake. I think it's interesting that we have two doctors running for the Congress this year. The former Surgeon General, Mr. Carmona in Arizona, and Dr. Ruiz running for the House, who are both emergency room doctors. They understand that people do die because they don't have health insurance. They understand. They understand that we spend more money on health care because people wait if they don't have insurance. They go to the emergency room when they're too sick, it costs more money, and they're less likely to recover. And he will be the first to tell you, this bill cannot possibly be perfect. It will need to be fixed and worked on. But the worst thing we could do is repeal it, go back to the status quo, and create a situation where America is both economically uncompetitive and inhumane in its health care policy. You need to send it down to And again, you know, his opponent, I just got to say this, his opponent actually voted for the Ryan Medicare plan, which says we're going to privatize and voucherize Medicare and hold it to a certain rate of inflation, which means that seniors on Medicare will pay $6,400 a year more for less health care. Look, I'm not against trying to bring down health care costs, but that's not what the Romney-Ryan-Mac proposal is. Their proposal is not to bring down health care costs. Their proposal is to shift health care costs off the government's books on the seniors' backs. And there is a big difference. In the last 40 years, as we've used technology more and inflation in healthcare has gone up, Medicare costs have gone up 400% in 40 years. That's a lot, huh? Per capita. Private insurance costs have gone up 700%. Why in the wide world would we do that to the seniors, saying, our answer to the budget problem is to throw people who have worked their whole lives and tried to live good lives and pay taxes into Medicare from a less expensive high-quality program into a more expensive one, because it makes our books look better? And let me tell you something else that affects all these people. One of the worst things about this healthcare budget is the proposal that their opponents will all be for, to block grant the Medicaid program, cut it by a third, and give it to the states. Look at the problems. Do you think you're having problems in California now, keeping funding for the UCI Irvine, for the Community College Network, for the future of California's science and technology base? You ain't seen nothing yet till they give you Medicaid. And here's why. A lot of the people that propose this coldly think, oh, it's just poor kids, what do I care? They don't vote. States can surely figure out some way to treat it more effectively. Again, this is not solving a health care problem, this is just shifting the cost. Well, first of all, those poor kids do matter. They're white, they're African American, they're Asian, they're Latino, they're from all over the world, from the Middle East and North Africa, they're our children. They do matter. Secondly, 61% of Medicaid doesn't go to poor kids. It goes to older people on Medicare whose incomes have been spent down, and they use Medicaid to stay alive in nursing homes. And it goes to middle class, sometimes even upper middle class families who have children with autism, with cerebral palsy, with other chronic problems, with developmental disabilities. And the only way they can go to work is if they get some help paying the extraordinary cost of paying for their children. And these people are up there just blithely saying, cut it by a third. Who cares? Give it to the states. We'll blame them. It won't be our problem. They are all our children. And that's another reason we should vote for them. Mark Takano. I want to say something about him. There are two reasons it used to be for him. First of all, he was a public school teacher, and politicians make more speeches about public schools than any other subject, and a lot of them don't know what they're talking about. It would be nice to have somebody there who has been in the classroom and performed and educated our young people. Secondly, he is a community college trustee. Now, why is this a big deal? We have 3.4 million jobs listed in America that we're not filling. And we have got to make a Herculean effort, it's a big part of the President's economic plan, to redo the training programs of the country through the community colleges so we speed up the rate at which we fill open jobs.
Huh?
And so
this is going to be held to upload on YouTube.
When they go in, we should be able to tell them,
25 minutes.
If you want, you have to move 200 miles when you graduate if you want to find a job. If you want to find a job within 50 miles, you got to, here are your options. Don't you think people should know that? I think, and I'll give you another example that applies to UC Irvine. We need 120,000 people educated in consumer science a year, computer science a year, to fill the vacancies. Google alone is looking for 6,000 jobs, right now, 6,000 posts. All the universities in America today are only graduating 40,000. So it would be a simple matter. First of all, if women went into this field at the same rate as men, we would not have a shortage. Secondly, if every school in the UC system, let's say, got this information at the beginning of every year. Here's what the profile is, here's what America needs, here's what California needs. Here it is. At least tell the students. Tell them so they'll know. Give them this information. This is the kind of thing that a practical, non-ideological, caring person who actually has helped to run a community college network will do for you. And the best reason to elect Mark Takano to the United States Congress. Now, the last two candidates have something in common. They both worked on ports. Now you think, what's that got to do with you? You have no intention of going to sea, that's why you're here. The answer is a lot. So let's start with Alan Lowenthal. As I said, he is not just the chairman of the Senate Education Committee. He helped to make the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles one of the cleanest and greenest in the entire world, and he proved good economics. Ports are responsible for an enormous load of greenhouse gas emissions. Bringing the stuff in and out of the port, they improved the efficiency of the trucks. They cleaned up the way the ports operated. There was a 65% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions with no small measure to him. At the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles, it was the largest drop of any major port in the entire world, and they proved it was good economics. That's the kind of voice we need in the United States Congress. There are now 100,000 jobs in solar in America, more than in coal or steel. Green energy jobs pay significantly more than jobs in the rest of the economy. The Republicans want to get rid of, beginning with their nominee for Congress, who wants to, he actually, I don't know if you caught this, he actually finally admitted I was going to get another tax cut if he got elected. In the second debate, he just didn't say it, he slided into it. He said, I just want to cut middle-class taxes, but wealthy people will still pay the same percentage. Math 101. If I pay the same percentage and all of you get a tax cut, I get one too. Right? It's arithmetic. Actually, I suppose maybe you think it's algebra, I think it's arithmetic. It's simple. Okay, this is really a very big deal. And I think the fact that he is running against someone who has actually questioned the science of climate change. Let me tell you, again, I go all over the world doing this, right? I'm proud to be an American. I love our country. I couldn't